Hey everyone, so before the show starts, if you're listening to this on May 16th by any chance, and you're in the Orange County area, particularly Costa Mesa, just want to remind y'all that I'm going to be in an improv show over at Improv Collective, a part of the Huntington Beach Boys in this IFL season. So check that out today, May 16th, Saturday, May 16th. Doors open at 9 p.m., so check that out. And if you miss it, you can still see me perform with an improv team called Gene Wilder. We're performing Friday, May 29th, also at Improv Collective, and doors open at 9 p.m. then as well. And then my final IFL match with Huntington Beach Boys will be Saturday, June 6th, and you guessed it, doors open at 9 p.m. and all of that is at Improv Collective, so check out improvcollective.fun to see all the fun stuff going on over there. Alright, so thanks for letting me say all that, and enjoy the show.
You're listening to Delayed Replay, the podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe for various reasons, but came out on time in our universe, and therefore come out pretty different for some reason. You might think this is improvised, and well, that's on you. I'm Steven Shinder, and welcome to the show. Airing sometimes every other week, sometimes 1 week and then the next week. It really depends. Just roll with it.
Season 7.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. And I'm your host, Steven Shinder. And joining me for this 200th episode, which I timed to be the 6th anniversary episode as well, to talk about Flowervale Street, it's Mr. Multiverse. How's it going?
Hey, this is a great honor. 200th episode and 6th anniversary, and you picked me. I'm flattered. No, this is really cool, and you literally got me for the perfect episode. I'm a giant dinosaur nut. This is a movie I'm going to gush about and also probably go full paleo autistic nerd on you, so be prepared for that.
Nice. So are you just a giant dinosaur nerd, or are you also a nerd about like the tiny dinosaurs as well?
Okay, it took me a second to realize you were joking. Yeah. Yeah, I love dinosaurs, great and small, and this is how bad I am sometimes. Okay, so for you and for the audience out there, perfect example. You know what Dimetrodon is, the one that looks like a lizard with a big sail on its back?
Yeah.
That's not a dinosaur, that's what's called a synapsid, which is actually more of a proto-mammal than it is a dinosaur. It's actually more related to us than it is to a T-Rex. And every time I see a Dimetrodon, like in a dinosaur toys, I'm like, that's not a dinosaur.
Yeah, it's like seeing Bob the Tomato and VeggieTales or something.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. This movie does have dinosaurs, and but they don't really explain a lot of them.
Yeah, this episode comes out May 16th, which is the first time since the podcast started that an episode came out on May 16th, and that date kind of has like some significances to it, I guess, because it's also when this movie Flowervale Street came out in our universe a year ago, and it's also when Attack of the Clones came out in 2002, which also has Ewan McGregor, and my friend Nathan P. Butler started Star Wars podcasting then for that around then. And yeah, I also have an improv show May 16th this year, and so yeah, quite a significant date, I guess. Yeah, this movie kind of came out of the blue. I remember my friend Jesse told me about it, like brought my attention to it, and apparently in that other universe they're calling it The End of Oak Street, and it comes out in August of this year for them. So between that and the title we have here, Flowervale Street, which one do you think sounds like a better title?
I think End of Oak Street, because I feel like that kind of gives like a double meaning to it. And I think it has a little more, shall we say, bite to it. Flowervale Street doesn't really give you anything, and not to say End of Oak Street doesn't either, but End of Oak Street definitely has like a meaning to the movie. Flowervale Street, it's like, I feel like they wanted to have like a title to give the reader, or like give the viewers more to go on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I can see how with the end of Oak Street, you have that double meaning where it's like, yeah, the house is at the end of Oak Street, but this could also be the end of that whole neighborhood or something. But I think I'm kind of leaning towards preferring Flowervale Street, if only because I just recently finally got around to watching Shelby Oaks, and I thought I wasn't into that movie. I thought it was kind of bad, so it's like having the word oak, it's like, okay, whatever, you know. But that might just be me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to say anything to not get your channel Stuckmanized, so I'm not going to make a joke.
Right. But this movie, like, you know, we have this family. We have Ewan McGregor playing Greg, which, funny enough, Greg is actually in his last name. I wonder if that's how they came up with it. Anne Hathaway plays Denise. So they're like a married couple. And I just saw her in the Devil Wears Prada 2 the other day. I thought she did a pretty good performance there, like the way she was able to switch up between different moods and stuff. And then for the kids, you have Maisie Stella as Audrey and Christian Convery as Brian. So what'd you think of the opening of this film, how it would like show what this family is like?
I thought it was very it's your standard 80s kind of feel. It actually, like, the family is pretty well put together. There's no like trauma or, you know, the stereotypical the mom and dad have marital problems or something like that. It's actually kind of a well organized family. It's a very supportive and loving family. And you do see that kind of familiar bond be strained throughout this whole event, which makes sense. You literally had an event where an entire suburb got thrown into the Jurassic era and people are dying now. So there is like fights and whatnot, but it's not to the point where people are like, oh, this is why I wanted to leave you, or this is why I cheated on you or something.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, they highlight how the spouses are like, you know, super in love with each other, and you get the sense that they're on great terms with the kids as well. There might be like a little bit of bickering here and there, but it's not like a whole "I hate you" type of thing, as we've seen with like Anakin Skywalker and the like, you know. But yeah, this movie, it does kind of, even if it's not a period piece, feels like a throwback to some of those 80s and 90s type movies where, you know, that kind of family adventure type feel, maybe a little bit of The Burbs, but kind of better in a way. So
it reminded me, it's a more R, what was this rating? R, right?
Was it? Let me check. I mean, in our universe, it may have been, but yeah, like a lot of it felt kind of PG-13-ish to me. Okay, so I know in that other universe it's PG-13. Is it different in our universe? I need a refresher on that.
See, like, I don't like, it kind of feels more like a hard PG-13 movie, where it got away with a little more violence. Probably because like it's animals attacking. Maybe that's why it got it got PG-13, because it's not like a person brutally killing someone. It's an animal eating someone.
Yeah, that could be it. And another shortcut that people use is that whenever there's blood shown anywhere, you know, in post-production, they'll change it so that the color of the blood doesn't look like the red it's supposed to be. Like, it'll be some absurd color so it looks less like blood. I think the Hannibal TV show kind of got away with stuff that way back in the day. So I thought that was kind of silly, but hey, if it helps you show some of this more intense, brutal stuff, then go for it, I guess.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to say right out the gate, I like this movie. Do I think it's perfect? No, I think there are some like story-wise that are a little questionable, but for the most part, it's another step in the right direction, because I don't know how you feel, what your temperature check on the Jurassic World franchise is like, but for me, it is dead. It feels it's getting stale. As much as I love Universal Studios, I feel like Jurassic should not be the only dinosaur franchise. And we had a breath of fresh air with Primitive War last year. So it's just nice to see other movie studios making dinosaur movies again, rather than just be the Jurassic franchise.
Yeah, with the Jurassic movies, it's like the original movie is pretty much the only great one. I thought that Rebirth had some things about it that felt a bit better than some of the other sequels, but overall my heart goes to the animation side of the Jurassic franchise. Like that's my bread and butter right there, because you get to spend more time with the characters. And yeah, Primitive War, that's something that my friend Zach recommended to me a while ago, and I see that's finally somewhere I can like stream it that I have access to, so I gotta check that out.
I can't remember if it's Hulu or Amazon, but it's one of those two.
Yeah, it's Hulu, Disney Plus, that whole thing. Yeah.
Now, it's not an Oscar-worthy movie, Steven. It is a fun it is like a fun creature feature film. It is a little ridiculous, but I think it earned it. And I think the book is still better than the movie, and I think you should read the book too.
That's really solid. On a book?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the book is actually way more nightmare fuel than the movie. Like, they go into more deep graphic detail of how these dinosaurs eat people. Like, there's a scene, and they do have it in the movie, but there's a scene where one of the soldiers is like pinned to one of the Utah raptors, and it goes into like 3 pages of detail of how this animal is eating away at this guy, and it is just gets under your skin.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll have to watch it and maybe attach like a little review of it to the end of this episode, which my other stuff will talk about too. But yeah, like you said, the whole dinosaur genre, it feels like the Jurassic franchise has a monopoly on it for the most part. Like, I don't know if other people just are too scared that their dinosaur movie will turn out looking bad. I mean, we have had like Tammy and the T-Rex or whatever back in the day.
Hey, we do not make fun of Tammy and the T-Rex here. That especially, have you ever watched the gore cut of that?
I don't know which cut I saw of that, but I do also remember there was like a Whoopi Goldberg dinosaur movie, which is that movie Theodore Rex. Yeah.
Oh God, that.
Yeah, the 90s were a weird time.
Yeah, and then I recently discovered a movie I thought I made up in my head as a child. You ever have one of those where you find something that's like, I thought that wasn't real. I thought I made that up.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I recently found it on YouTube. It was called Adventures in Dinosaur City. That movie, rewatching it, because I was like, oh, like I could relive my childhood, and I was like, my childhood sucked.
Yeah. Oh, I googled it, and this poster does look familiar, actually.
Right?
Yeah, I feel like between that and Theodore Rex, there was like a moment where people thought that having a bipedal dinosaur wear like a hip, quote unquote, in air quotes, jacket would be the thing to do. But yeah, it looks really silly. And yeah, if I watch this, like it's gonna be with super low expectations.
The expectation should be 6 feet under.
Yeah.
But I've been a massive dinosaur nerd since I was a kid. I am always down for more dinosaur stuff, which is weird because, again, I know Jurassic Park cornered the market on it, but that shouldn't have stopped people from trying to like ape off of it like they did in the 90s. Like, hell, Roger Corman beat Jurassic Park by 1 year with Carnosaur.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that movie. Yeah.
Which, funny enough, has Laura Dern's mother in the movie.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I might have to check that out. But is that another one of those movies where you have to like keep your expectations low? Like, is it like super silly or?
Okay, for reference, expectations.
Yeah.
I'm still going. The expectations are still going down.
Yeah, so for those who can't see, Mr. Multiverse had his hand all the way up to the top of the screen and then was lowering it like to below the screen, basically.
It's a Roger Corman movie. You have to take it as is.
But yeah, so this movie begins, we talked about the family, getting to know the family and stuff, but then after a certain point, they realize that their neighborhood has been moved. What did you think of this whole switch up and transition here?
I liked it. I liked the confusion. I did think for a second, I was like, because it just from the lens flare and whatnot, and like the lights flickering in and out, and I was like, for some reason, my brain went, "Oh no, is this going to be a Cloverfield movie?"
Yeah, there was that fear, and there are like some things here and there where I kind of wonder if they were trying to put in Cloverfield connections and then realized later, actually, you know what, we can't do that,
Yeah. I also will give credit to, and I think we'll probably talk more about the director in a bit, but hats off to him, because this was like a step up from what he did, because it was the director of It Follows.
Oh yeah, David Robert Mitchell. Yeah, I kind of liked It Follows, even though the premise is kind of silly on paper. But what did you think of that?
It's so crazy to watch that movie and then this. It's almost like, and I'm not going to say this guy is the next Spielberg, but it is almost like a Spielberg thing where you're watching him do Jaws and then the change and everything else in Close Encounters with the Third Kind or E.T. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He also did Under the Silver Lake, which I thought was kind of okay. It had Andrew Garfield in it. It came out in 2018. And there was even a moment in that movie where I think Andrew Garfield has a Spider-Man comic stuck in his hand. So very like obvious reference there, I guess. But yeah, I thought this movie was a good improvement from then. Pretty crazy that movie was like 7 years or whatever before this one. Like, that's quite a long gap between movies.
Yeah. It's also interesting that like there's a way more, I mean, yeah, the cast mainly focuses on the family, but there's so many other characters out there because it's a whole suburb. And the fact that this director, who did a very minimalist movie, managed to do such a broad group is actually kind of impressive.
Yeah. And we do kind of get to know some of the neighbors early on in the movie too, some of the dynamics, and there are even neighbors who are jealous of this family's perfect life. Greg, Denise, and their family, they have a good life, whereas the rest, other people in the neighborhood are like kind of jealous. And you also have the neighbor who like borrows stuff once in a while, like the lawnmower or something. So I quite liked the world building on this street, and we even had that block party early on where we got to know some people.
It's actually funny that even though I did have that fear it was going to be a low-key Cloverfield movie, I did at the start of like how everyone interacts with each other. It reminded me a lot of like, do you remember that episode of Twilight Zone? The end of Mulberry, like what's going on in Mulberry Street?
Yeah, that's a classic. Yeah.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of how the characters interact. It reminded me of that episode, especially when things go down and they're in the Jurassic era. That paranoia and like accusation just immediately goes off, and immediately my brain kicked to that episode of Twilight Zone.
Yeah, might have been an influence on this. And you get like there are kids here and there, like little kids like in the neighborhood. So when they see a dinosaur, they're like in awe and amazed, but the parents are like, no, get away from that. And it feels very realistic how they would all react to all of that.
It's very true. Like, there is like much like in the first Jurassic Park. There's a sense of wonder when they do see dinosaurs, but that a wonder is there for like a second, because realistically, this isn't a theme park. These are wild animals, and they will like immediately turn on you. Like a good example right here I'm going to use is like for one of the so this is our main dinosaur villain, quote unquote, and it's not Allosaurus. I thought it was, but it's actually what's really cool in the movie. It's Torvosaurus. Now, for dear listeners out there, may I go dino nuts for a second?
Yeah, you want to go nuts? Go nuts! Or let's get whatever Michael Keaton says.
So what's fascinating in this movie, because it is set in the Jurassic era, you'd think it'd be an Allosaurus or several Allosaurus, because we do know they hunted in packs. But no, what they do is use Torvosaurus. Torvosaurus was a giant predator, probably the largest predator in the Jurassic era. It was basically like, I think the 6th or the 5th largest carnivore we know of that era of dinosaurs. These guys were massive, almost to like over 30 feet long. And it's fascinating that they use a Torvosaurus as the quote unquote main antagonist of the movie, because like in the 1980s, we didn't know Torvosaurus existed, so they don't know what this is. It's very much like going back to Primitive War, where they used Utah raptors in the Vietnam War. Well, we didn't find Utah raptors or the skeleton of Utah raptor until like the 90s. So there's a moment in that movie where they're like, I don't know what that is. Like it looks like a raptor, but a Deinonychus, but bigger. But it's the same thing here, where it's like one kid who does know about dinosaurs is like, that's not. People are saying like it's an Allosaurus, and I'm like, that's not an Allosaurus. It's too big. Yeah.
And there's also a moment where, when one of these dinosaurs approaches, I don't know how many people caught this, but it kind of looked like Anne Hathaway's eye line was like looking up at much higher than this dinosaur would have been. So I suspect that originally in the script, it was supposed to be a Cloverfield monster she was looking at, which would have been much bigger. And they just like kept that shot of how she was looking in, even though in the movie it's just a dinosaur.
Yeah. I will also say that like, there's some great camera angles, like in the trailer, the first teaser they had, where, it is Torvosaurus. It's chasing down some people, and you hear it outside. And the audio, if watching this in theaters, it's like, because you can actually hear like the guy gagging as like the thing is eating, because it's like eating him stomach first. So the blood, you can hear like the bones crush and him like gagging on his own blood. And I'm like, so this is how we get around the R rating.
Yeah. Yeah, there's great sound mixing as well, and all the dinosaur sounds and stuff. There's also some great synth music throughout this movie, which I kind of wasn't expecting.
Yeah, it's the same thing of like, I wasn't expecting synth in Primate, that movie from a few months ago.
Oh yeah, that movie was pretty good. I saw that in the theater. Yeah.
Yeah, that soundtrack was actually like, I was like, dude, someone copied John Carpenter's notes for the music in that movie. But no, yeah, I like Primate.
Yeah, it does have John Carpenter music vibes, yeah.
And that goes here because, like, I get it, it's set in the 80s, but, like, I forgive it because, like, I thought they would, I thought it'd be campy at first. Like, when I first heard synth music, I was like, because I hate 80s nostalgia bait. Stranger Things ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, like back in high school when I kind of wanted to be a filmmaker someday. One of the ideas I had was, you know what, someday I want to make a movie that's set in the 80s, but now all these years later, I could, like, it's like, I don't give a about the 80s anymore, like making an 80s style movie. But here, I think they do a good job not making it seem like, I feel like some 80s nostalgia things kind of make things like the colors of the clothing and everything look too bright and shiny in a way. But here it's more subdued.
It does actually feels like legit like clothes you would see in the 80s that isn't like, oh, this is what like what you would think you would wear, you know?
Right.
So I do appreciate there is some authenticity there. I also do like in the film, there's this sense of, as the film goes on, there's this kind of growing sense in the community that, you know, we all have our differences, but we're kind of like working together on it. And yeah, we're gonna fight and try, but they're like also this overlying, we're doing this whole hope and you know, hope and togetherness. We don't know how to get out. This might be our lot. Like, this might be our lives now.
Yeah. Also, one of the neighbors is a theoretical astronomer. So when it eventually got to nighttime, he was able to look at the sky and be like, okay, this is where and when we are in the universe or whatever.
Yeah. I also do like he brings up the fact that, like, he brings up the butterfly effect. So he's like, we can't leave this spot in, you know, who knows how much damage us coming here has already done to the timeline. We can't go venture past this point because we may do damage to the future. If we can find a way back, we'll come back to something completely different. He like brings up all like these scenarios, like we could come back to a future that's like where Russia won the Cold War or something like that.
Yeah, because that is something that they bring up because they're from the 80s. I do think his explanation could have been shortened a bit, but maybe that's just because, like, we as audiences are like already super familiar with like what the butterfly effect is and how all that works. But yeah, I don't know. How'd you feel about the length of his explanation?
I think I forgave it because, like, this is the 1980s, theoretical science in a California suburb. Yeah, they're not going to know that. So I forgave it. I also do like when people are like bouncing off, like, okay, so even if we do find a way back, like, would it be wrong to keep, because they talk about like, yeah, we may change things, but we want to live to see those changes. And then the guy goes, okay, jackass, what if we go back to if we find a way to somehow come back to the present, our present may be immediately altered and we may not even be speaking English or something like that. Do you get it yet? Like, they're talking about like, yeah, that are the changes going to be that bad? This is about surviving and not getting eaten by a dinosaur.
Yeah, and I think they were also from the early 80s. So because of that, they don't have the obligatory, oh, it's just like Back to the Future, which Avengers Endgame got cutesy with. So
yeah, I deeply appreciate that.
Yeah, I thought that time placement was very purposeful here.
Yeah. I also do like the idea that there is a, like, some people are like trying to keep the community together, but there's this overtone of no one knows what the hell we're doing, what the fuck's going on.
Yeah. And there's even this house in the neighborhood, which, you know, before all of this was kind of rumored to be a haunted house, but now with all these weird sciencey things going on, they're kind of wondering, could this strange house be the source of everything that's happening here? What'd you think of the way that they explored that whole thing?
Yeah, someone, and I don't know, you may have to like look this up for me, is like someone brings up, and maybe it's just because, it's under Warner Brothers too, someone goes, it's like the house in It. And I'm like, wait, was It written in the 80s? I mean, the special wasn't there until the 90s, but like in the did Stephen King write that in the 80s?
Oh yeah, so the It novel came out in 1986. So
Yeah, so that's still too like this movie's supposed to be set what to 1983 or something.
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So we're like 3 years off. That doesn't like your reference doesn't make any sense other than haha. It's Pennywise is popular, and also this is a Warner Brothers movie, so we can do that. That was the one where I went, okay, okay, director, you overstepped for a second.
No, yeah, and in interviews he tried backtracking by being like, you have to pretend that this is set in an alternate universe where the It novel came out earlier, and that's why some things are different. And it's like, okay, you just pulled that out of your head. Like, come on.
Yeah, what
man.
alternate universe is that lame, right? Like, I don't know, I don't know, like, say like an alternate universe where like, cocaine's legal, and not like, oh, Stephen King wasn't on drugs and he actually thought of it sooner. And also, by the way, that book doesn't have that scene in it.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about, the infamous one. I've never read it. I just know that about the terrible scene. But yeah, if like, with these neighbors having come from the early 80s, it doesn't precede them, rather it follows, or should follow, because if that came out 86.
All right, I'm gonna go, Steven. I'm gonna go. Like, it's been fun.
How could I resist that, man? Like, it's just on a silver platter for me to do that.
I hold you in higher regard, Steven. I should be making the puns here, ass. But yeah. So to go back to like the dinosaurs real fast, what I also like is that we're using modern day views on dinosaurs and applying them to the 80s. Because in the 1980s, especially the early 80s, a lot of people, the general public, thought dinosaurs were big, dumb, and slow. We didn't really have what is called the dinosaur renaissance until like the 90s, and Jurassic Park helped with that. You had like a paleontologist like Robert Bakker and several others who were basically throwing out the theory that dinosaurs weren't these big, lumbering, slow animals. They were they were warm-blooded. They were able of moving fast and way more intelligent than we give them credit for. So the fact that when we see dinosaurs, some people are like, that's not how they look like in the books, or like I saw a Ray Harryhausen movie, that's not what they're supposed to look like. So I like that juxtaposition of like, this is what people of taking what we now know about dinosaurs and applying them to a point where we didn't really know. This is how, like, it completely with their mind.
Yeah, and by this point, these characters have not seen that many dinosaur like, this is pre-Jurassic Park being released, so I guess there would have been like Land of the Lost or stuff like that, maybe some stop motion things here and there.
Yeah, like I said, they brought up Ray Harryhausen.
Right, yeah. And Godzilla movies kind of really could kind of be seen as semi-dinosaur-ish. So it's interesting seeing that frame of reference prior to the dinosaur renaissance, like you mentioned, and before we fully knew, oh, the dinosaurs will actually look like this. It makes for an interesting discussion of, I wonder how they'd react if they see the Jurassic Park movies onward, like later on.
Yeah, it's actually like a great scene with another pair of antagonist dinosaurs, these two ceratosaurs. And they really apply the dinosaur intellect to those ceratosaurs because they're in that supposed haunted house. Like, they literally busted in through the garage and ate the whole family. And as you can see, Ceratosaurus was probably, if it existed to this day, it'd probably prey on humans. Ceratosaurus was kind of like the jackal of the Jurassic era. It wasn't the largest carnivore. It's believed that like it was probably bullied off of other prey, and was probably more of like scavenging off of like Allosaurus or Torvosaurus, and probably feeding on younger or smaller dinosaurs. But these ceratosaurs, it actually displays the intellect of like, they figure out like the door, someone slams the door shut and they're like, its arms are too small, it won't be able to open the door, so we don't need to lock it. But then it just starts like nudging the door with its head, and it like figures out, oh, I can just get through doing this.
Yeah.
And there's also a great moment where like they psych out the group. Like, what is it? Greg and some of the other guys are trying to like draw them away from the families, and they're trying to draw one off, and they're like, wasn't there two? Oh, the Ceratosaurus set up like a pincer maneuver and got them like cornered. And I was like, oh, we're just displaying dinosaur intellect. Neat.
Yeah, there's also a scene where they try to distract a dinosaur by getting these like hungry hippo games together into some sort of contraption that makes noise and whatever, and they call it Hippo Island, and put it on a wagon cart thing and stuff. So I thought it was kind of fun seeing them construct those types of things and really incorporate their smarts and whatnot.
Yeah, I do like the fact that like that whole Hippo Island thing, they're like, yeah, the sound will draw it away, and then the Ceratosaurus looks at it and is just like, "Are you serious? Did you think that I was gonna go right after that?" And it was like, because they keep underestimating the dinosaurs. They're applying what they think they know, thinking they're big dumb animals. No, they're fast and they're smart.
Yeah. Also, because they're from 1983, the song On Earth Will Only Heart by Yes plays at some point. What'd you think of that scene?
You know, I immediately thought of you, if I'm being honest. I was like, I hope Steven gives this movie a good grade now.
Yeah.
He should bring that up at Yes Shift.
Yeah, for sure. You know, like I said, they investigated that one house earlier and didn't really find much other than like, you know, they found like these garden shears that they could kind of use to defend themselves. I guess like whoever used to live here was like some sort of collector of gardening tools or something. So
yeah. And then when you find the big reveal that like this is this house that looked like the haunted house, there was a time machine that the dude was building, and it freaked out and pulled everyone back to that point in time.
Yeah.
So I do like that reveal. I was like, oh, thank God, it's not like a Cloverfield thing. It's like this is like 80 shenanigans.
No, yeah, I do suspect that early on they were probably going to use like the man, it's been a while since I watched the Cloverfield Paradox. I remember it was pretty garbage, but I do vaguely remember it had like alternate dimensions and universes and time travel maybe. So
yeah,
I kind of wonder if they were going to try. Early on they were thinking of incorporating that before realizing, you know what, that's too convoluted. Let's just get back to basics here.
Yeah. I do also like that where they're like, it's actually kind of a darkly funny moment where like Greg and Denise are like, cool, we'll find the guy and we'll get him to fix the machine and he'll send us all back. Where is he? And they all like are looking around for him. It's like, I found him. And there's like an arm hanging out of one of the Ceratosaurus' mouth. And it's like, oh.
Yeah. There's even like a little bit of bone in there, so yeah, pretty grim fate for whoever this time traveler was.
Yeah. What I also like is and I know I keep talking about the dinosaurs, I'm sorry. What I like also is that we're in the Jurassic period and not like the typical Cretaceous period, so we get like T-Rex and Triceratops. No, we actually get some variety, because while the Jurassic era we know has some very popular dinosaurs and very well-known dinosaurs, it's not really an era that we focus on, even though, yes, we have a franchise called Jurassic Park, but it has so many Cretaceous dinosaurs.
Yeah, it's funny. This is kind of the inverse of Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park has dinosaurs from the past being moved forward to the present, and here it's like we have a time period close to the present and then are going back to dinosaurs. And I know this isn't like the first thing to do that. There was that one short story, Sound of Thunder or whatever it was, the time travel one. That was a pretty
That
cool
movie was awful.
No, yeah, the movie was bad, but the original short story, I really dug reading that in high school.
There's actually like another great, I cannot remember the title of it, but it was basically a alternate future. I think it was called like Significant Prey or something, but it was a short horror story set in like a future where a dentist was revealed to be a mass serial killer, and they put him to death. Now, how people are put to death in this future is that like their consciousness is put in the mind of someone who's about to die, because this society is very much like, we don't kill you, we'll just put your consciousness back in the mind of someone who's going to die. So the guy basically says, I want you to put my mind in a T-Rex body. So they put his mind in a Tyrannosaur's body. Now he can't really like pilot it. That's the idea, is that he can't really like control the body. And this T-Rex was supposed to die, it like falling off of a cliff or something. But the dude actually gets control of the T-Rex's body and then starts preying on early mammals, thereby disrupting the evolution of man.
Damn. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty cool story. We'll have to see if I can find it.
I wish I could remember that title.
Yeah, but before I forget, and then we'll get back to the plot. So I've had this discussion with other friends who are like into the Jurassic franchise, but do you consider Jurassic Park a horror movie? And for that matter, do you consider Flowervale Street a horror movie?
I actually consider, and this is my controversial take, I consider the first 3 Jurassic Park movies horror movies. I think there is a beautiful line, especially in the first movie, that they walk this line of wonder with fear. And the other 2, Lost World and 3, are straight up horror movies. Especially 3. 3 has got some serious vibes. And after seeing how bad Dominion was, I owe 3 an apology. But the first movie, I do like the moment we get to the T-Rex paddock, that's when we become a horror movie. Yeah, so I personally consider a science fiction horror, especially the first movie.
Okay, I think for me, I'm kind of different in that I feel like, stuff like, the second movie definitely leans in more to like the survivalist stuff, but I think the John Williams type music kind of keeps me from seeing these. Well, I know that he did Jaws, but the music in the Jurassic movies have more of awe and wonder type of thing, so it kind of makes it tough for me to look at them as horror movies. But speaking of Jaws, like this movie, Flowervale Street, kind of does remind me of how Jaws sort of towed that line. Like Jaws wasn't rated R, but it felt horrific, and you even had child death there, which, back then Jaws was PG, probably would have been PG-13 if it came out later. So you got kind of similar vibes here. So, but do you consider Flowervale Street horror as well?
I kind of do consider it horror. I mean, there is a lot of great family, and there are points in this movie where I'm like, you really are trying to be like Steven Spielberg, but not feel like, but it's not like J.J. Abrams, who in, what was it, Super 8. Here, it's a little more respectful. Like, the guy knows his strengths. This is like a big movie for him, and he's playing to what he knows. So I do think this is more of a horror movie, but there are some there are some sweet moments and some good character moments. Even if you didn't like It Follows, I know you said you liked it, but to anyone watching who said they didn't like It Follows, you got to admit there are some solid character moments in that film. Like, especially when they're like, it's just 1 or 2 people, or even in that opening scene where the girl's calling her dad and just saying, goodbye. There's an emotional weight to those scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think It Follows was also kind of a vague period piece, maybe the 80s. So I feel like that kind of prepared the director for this movie. And I think the synth music makes me look at this as more horror. It feels more like something that would be in horror movies. Yeah.
I do think that this movie has it definitely is more scary. It is definitely scarier. And I've kind of noticed that it's kind of nice to have dinosaur horror back, especially, I don't know if you care much for like these dinosaur analog horror films that are on YouTube. There are moments in here where it's like, what is it? So one guy's like trying to switch on a light right next to a window, and he's like, he's like, come on, damn it. He switches it. There's the goddamn Torvosaurus on the other side of the window just looking at him. And you like, I knew it was coming too. I knew it was coming, but like the fact that this thing, I think what made it scarier is that the thing moved on. Like it didn't crash through because you think it's gonna like crash through the window and eat him. No, it's just like looks at him and then goes.
Yeah,
I don't know why that was more unsettling. I don't know why.
Yeah, it kind of went against expectations. It's like, oh, you think you know where the movie is going, but then the behaviors are kind of different. So this movie did kind of keep me on my toes, which I appreciated. You know, it didn't just feel like a nostalgia fest. It, like, overall, like, I was really on edge. I was invested in the neighborhood here and the stuff that happened like in the cul-de-sac as well. It's like this neighborhood kind of feels like a character in its own by the end of the film.
Exactly. Yeah. It feels like its own environment, and you see more of these dinosaurs where at first you kind of notice the dinosaurs are like weirded out by it. Like what, like you see like one dinosaur like tries to put their foot on the pavement and immediately jerk it back. Because it's not like, you have to understand the Jurassic period, grass or flat, like, yeah, we had grass, but we didn't have flowers didn't evolve until the Cretaceous period, another 100 million years from that point. So to see pavement is really like disturbing to an animal like that.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't even consider before this movie. That, you know, when you think of animals, you think, oh, if they see something they're like some object they're not familiar with, they'll probably just shrug and keep going. But if it's something that looks really out of the blue from what they're used to in their time, like, you know, there were no houses or pavement back in the Jurassic period. So of course they're gonna be kind of in shock about all of it and be like, what the heck is going on, type of thing.
Yeah. And what I also like is that we actually have herbivores. Thank you, movie, for proving herbivores are just as terrifying as carnivores. There's a moment where they run into a stegosaurus, and they're like, "Oh, it's fine. It eats plants." And this thing freaks out, like immediately swings. What you'll love that. I don't know if you know this story, Stephen, but you know that thing at the end of the tail, the spikes on the stegosaurus.
Yeah. What about them?
It's called the Thangomizer. I bring this up because the reason why it's called a Thangomizer is because a paleontologist got that from a joke from a Gary Larson comic.
What?
Yeah, there's a great comic from Gary Larson with a bunch of cavemen talking about like how to avoid getting killed by dinosaurs, and they're talking about the spike tail of the Stegosaurus, and he goes, here's what we call the Thangomizer after the late Thang Simmons. And literally paleontologists, because we're all a bunch of dumb nerds, paleontologists just started calling it the Thangomizer from that joke. And now it's just part of the dinosaur lexicon.
I mean, that honestly doesn't surprise me, because especially with the joke-sounding names that become official names for certain animal discoveries, it's just become the norm by this point, really. Yeah.
It's actually like that scene where the thing's throwing the Thangomizer around the stegosaur, and it gets one guy through the chest. And what's really haunting is, even though this is a PG-13 movie, you see that same Stegosaurus walking around the neighborhood, and he's still like got the body stuck to his tail.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty cool looking, like really gnarly. Yeah. So, and you know, throughout some of this, they're trying to repair the time machine. They think that the astronomer can help out with that, but he's like, what, just because I'm in one scientific field, do you think I know everything about this thing?
Yeah, he's literally like, what do you want me to do? I look at stars, man. Like, yeah. He's like looking at this time machine. He's like, well, can't you fix it? And he's like, no. What are you, stupid? Like, I didn't even, this should not exist. This should be in an H.G. Wells novel.
Yeah.
Wait, like even his brain is breaking because he's like, that's a time machine.
Yeah. So what they end up needing to do is they have to, because they brought the time machine out of that house and into another one, but they realize, shoot, we need to go back into the house to get the scientists' notes, like retrieve the notes so that we have a better idea of how to deal with this. But of course, there are a couple dinosaurs in there, so they kind of have to sneak into the house and get the research notes. What did you think of that whole sequence?
I liked it. I do think it did make me go, so how big is this house if we can fit 2 ceratosaurs and also have the Torvosaurus like circling around the area?
Yeah.
Like, how big are these corridors, man?
Yeah, and then you have like a staircase breaking. I thought that looked pretty cool.
Yeah. And it's kind of refreshing to have main characters in a dinosaur movie not feel like they have plot armor. I haven't seen that since Lost World.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess there are characters in that movie who didn't feel like they had plot armor. Jeff Goldblum certainly felt like he did, in my opinion, but he's Jeff Goldblum, you know?
Yeah, because there's like a great moment where like Ian McGregor's character, the Torvosaurus like bites into him and like tosses him into a wall, and I'm like, oh, that actually looked like you thought for a second he was gonna die. Like I had no thought. It was like, oh, they're not gonna kill Ian McGregor. I was like, oh, Ian McGregor might get eaten.
Yeah, because he's a busy guy, so he might have a busy schedule, and so Anne Hathaway is kind of carrying it for a bit, and she does a great job holding her own. But yeah, this movie, it really makes you question, who can make it out and who won't. Like they pretty much already make you question it by we talked earlier about when the kids basically got eaten or whatnot. But yeah, I was invested in this family and how Audrey and Brian are also trying to work together to make sure that they can get through all this together. So yeah, this was a really engaging watch to me.
Yeah. So I do like the ending where, they basically, and it does feel a little convoluted. I will say it feels a little convoluted, but but I'm willing to work with it, is that essentially they moved, but the timeline split. So basically Flowervale Street never left. And basically, they're like a copy of that. Like the time machine worked, and it did send them back, but like it was like an echo of them. So they're going through their lives on Flowervale Street as normal, but there's like a timeline version of them that split away from that event and ended up in the Jurassic era.
Yeah, I think this part of the movie was kind of confusing to me, and honestly, I had to like go online and type in Flowervale Street ending explained type of thing.
Yeah, I never liked those videos. I'm like, I don't need an ending explained to me. I can make up my own decisions. I never liked those. If you like them, that's fine, Steven. I hate being like told what the ending is. Like, I'll decide. How about I decide as a moviegoer?
No, yeah. Like, there are definitely some videos like that go on for too long. Like, I know there are some movies where I quite like the ambiguous ending. Like, without spoiling it, Mulholland Drive is a movie which has an ending that really makes you question things. But I feel like when you watch it again, like it with the whole movie in mind, it's like, it's actually pretty simple. Like the ending, it doesn't require too much explanation. Like it's pretty simple what the ending is. But yeah, I guess it was a very unique way to end this movie, at least, and bringing in all those time travel mechanics in that sense.
Yeah. So I kind of like the idea of like at the ending is like they get the time machine working just enough to see, wait, why are we in the present now? And then that's when the astronomers like, I heard like theories of like time splitting. So maybe there's a timeline where it didn't work, and we're the timeline that it did work.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what happens to them from this point on, and meanwhile you have like the versions of them who are back and they're pretty much living their lives happy-go-lucky. It can send someone into existential dread, honestly.
And it does. It basically makes the family go, oh my God, not only can we not find a way back, we may not even be real.
Right.
Yeah. So I do like that there's some existential dread, and I'm like, there's the horror. It's cosmic horror.
Yeah.
So it kind of ends on a depressing note where they're stuck there and they don't even think they're real, or they think that's the copies. The entirety of Flowervale Street are the copies, and they're the real people, or vice versa. It's like it just with them until the very end.
Yeah, like all you need here is for either Jordan Peele or Rod Serling to narrate the moral of the tale or whatever.
I thought that too. I had that moment. It was like, so Rod Serling should be stepping out right about now.
Yeah.
Close things up for us, Roddy.
Yeah, and then the credits come up, and it's this very eerie, foreboding music. Like, such great music to have play after that whole mic drop thing.
I also like the use of, in the credits, like midway through the credits, Walk the Dinosaur played. I'm like, that's I'm like, I don't know if that, like, that's a nice little brutal sting in the credits. I don't know why, but like, it's darkly funny to use everybody get up, go on the floor, everybody walk the dinosaur in your existential cosmic dinosaur horror movie.
Yeah, is that the song that was in Ice Age 3, Dawn of the Dinosaurs as well?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I also noticed in the credits, if you look closely, you'll see that it says Ceratosaurus as himself. And it's like, okay, that's... I get you're trying just to be silly, but that's kind of stupid, not gonna lie.
Yeah. I do love it because I heard somewhere that there was like an after credit scene, and I was like, there isn't, thank God. But I stayed around, and someone said it ends with the credits going to all of our extras. Unfortunately, they were all eaten.
Right, but then after that, you do get the Bad Robot logo with the the whole Bad Robot. So there you go.
Which, yeah. More like bad studio acquisition. Jeez.
All right, but
I've made my displeasure about the Paramount Warner Brothers thing vocal.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Some of the stuff that happens in our universe is pretty absurd, but apparently that's happening in that other universe as well, unfortunately. So, I mean, hopefully it can still get blocked. I don't even know what the progress of it is right now. I've just been so busy with lots of things, but yeah, as we've seen with this movie, things are better when they have more of their own identity and are not just trying to mix IPs and stuff together into just one thing.
Yeah, sometimes the dinosaur movie can just be a dinosaur movie.
Yeah. But this was a pretty appropriate topic for the anniversary episode, because the first episode of Delayed Replay was about A Quiet Place Part 2, and as people know, originally A Quiet Place was in consideration to be part of the Cloverfield universe before they decided to back off from that. So kind of similar situation here, I guess. So it's like, it's poetry, it rhymes or whatever.
It's poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah. All right. So, do you want to get into final thoughts and scores out of 10? My
final thought is it's nice to see a solid dinosaur movie. I I hope this actually prompts the next Jurassic World movie to have some effort. Looking at you, Rebirth. I think there are some solid scares. I think there's some good heart to it. Is it a little convoluted? Yes, but I forgive it for that. And I am going to say, I'm going to give this a very positive 8. 8. Trying to think of something clever here. 8 Ian McGregor's almost eaten out of 10.
Nice. And yeah, I'm right there with you. You know, the ending was kind of a bummer when I came away from it because I was like so rooting for this family. But at the same time, I gotta give them credit for having the guts to have that type of ending. You know, it doesn't feel like typical studio blockbuster happy ending type of thing. And it feels earned because of the way the plot progressed and all the science they were talking about and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna give this 8 out of 10 not so haunted houses.
Okay.
All right, so I guess that'll do it. Quite a surprise watch this was, and definitely recommend. So thanks for joining me for this special episode, Mr. Multiverse. Where can people find your stuff?
They can find me on Mr. Multiverse over on YouTube. I have 2 short stories called Duel of the Monsters. Those are anthologies. I have short stories in there. If you want to see a velociraptor fight a vampire, go check those books out.
Nice. Yeah, sure to be a fun time for people who check those out. All right, so that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and without further delay, have a good day. Right, so thanks again to Mr. Multiverse, and yeah, wow, 6 years, 200 episodes. I actually did find the title of the short story he mentioned earlier in the episode. It was Just Like Old Times by Robert J. Sawyer. So, interesting stuff. And I also went ahead and, since that recording, watched a couple of the movies he mentioned. Adventures in Dinosaur City. That was super boring, and I'm not sure, maybe if I watched it as a kid, would I have liked it? I don't know. Kind of felt like not enough happened. And Carnosaur, I also found kind of plotting, despite, you know, a little bit of horror spectacle here and there. I give both of those 3 out of 10s. And Primitive War, well, I'll let my other self talk about that in just a moment. And he'll talk about in non-spoiler detail, as well as non-spoiler thoughts on other things, including The Devil Wears Prada 2, and the finales for Daredevil Born Again Season 2, Maul Shadow Lord Season 1, Rooster Season 1, The Comeback Season 3, and what else? Yeah, there are some other things he'll talk about as well in non-spoiler thoughts. But now on to the plugs. You can email delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on the number 200. What are some things that you want 200 of? You can also follow me via the social media list in the show notes, and go to stevenshinder.com for info on my standalones and stepping stones novels, and go ahead and buy those and review them. Would really appreciate that. And this podcast that I'm also on is called Yes Shift. I do that with my dad. We've had Oliver Wakeman on for another interview before reviewing the expanded edition of Yes is From a Page album. And Dad and I also talked about Yes's Union album, and we got other stuff coming up. So yeah, check that out. And as for Delayed Replay, after some 3-week gaps, the schedule will now go, I guess, weekly for a little while. We'll see how this goes. Next time, the topic will be Avengers Secret Wars, which was originally going to be the topic for the 200th/6th anniversary episode, but then thinking about Primitive War and, that coming out May 16th last year, it's like, you know what? Should do that instead. I don't know, it just feels on brand for the podcast. And also, the mention of Mulholland Drive earlier was no coincidence. That premiered at Cannes on May 16th, 2001, 25 years ago. So, there you go. But yeah, that should give you stuff to look forward to. And like I said, I'll let my other self talk about some of these other movies and TV shows and stuff. So without further delay, here's my other self. Alright, so here I am, and hey everyone. And as always, you can check out some of my movie reviews over at Letterboxd. I'm Rotten Tormato. Some thoughts are pretty short. Sometimes they're just a funny one-liner. Other times I go into more detail. But that's where you can see some of my reviews over there. But in the meantime, just want to go over just a select few of these movies I've seen recently. So, staying on topic with dinosaurs, Primitive War. I gave it a watch. I kind of thought it would be better, and then I don't know, I just didn't care about the characters. It definitely had, an attempt at dinosaur horror, and I think it kind of made me realize maybe I don't really care for dinosaur horror elements. I kind of don't know what I want from these types of movies, maybe. I don't know, but yeah, and there's like a lot of shouting, and some of the dialogue left me wanting for better things, so I give this one a 5, maybe 5.5 out of 10. It's pretty meh to me, which is disappointing, because I feel bad because I know people who really like this movie, and I just didn't vibe with it at all. Shelby Oaks, I didn't really vibe with that one either. That was a horror movie, and what's interesting is it started off feeling like a found footage movie before switching to more conventionally shot type of movie, and found footage is pretty iffy for me most of the time, so you would think the switch would make me start to like it, but I just didn't. I was bored by this one. I gave that one a 5 out of 10. Now, Black Phone 2, I finally got around to watching that, and I think I might be in the minority, but I gave this one a 7 out of 10. It's not as good as the first movie. I don't know, it just kept my attention. I really liked how it was shot. It is one where I do wonder if it could go down, my score. Oh, maybe that could go down over time if I were to revisit it in the future, but for now, I was satisfied enough watching it. And Send Help, that's another one that I gave a 7 out of 10, another newer kind of horror movie. I guess it's more of a survival/thriller movie. It puts Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams on this island, and they have had this work dynamic at the office, and now it's a movie that makes you really question whom you should root for, and there are some twists and turns, and I'm not quite sure that I'm totally happy with how things end up, but it was definitely a ride worth taking. So I did kind of expect that it might be more horror, but I still feel like Sam Raimi has yet to fully return to horror. In my book, Drag Me to Hell was the last time he did. I don't feel like Multiverse of Madness or Send Help are quite the return to horror that people have been saying Sam Raimi has done. Like, those kind of don't cut it in that regard for my book, but Send Help is definitely an interesting watch. Now, this next one is an older one, 8 years old movie. I got to really late, and this is Hereditary. Now, Ari Aster's other movies haven't really done that much for me, but this one, it was really unsettling, and there's probably the most disturbing shot of a face I've ever seen in a film. It's a movie that really sticks with you and keeps you thinking. I do kind of wonder if there may be some unintentional problematic elements, but it's really convincingly well acted, and it's a lot went into this one. I don't want to spoil anything, of course. Now, going back to newer movies, Marty Supreme, people compare it to Uncut Gems, and yeah, it's in that vein, but the thing is, with those types of movies, I get so tired of hearing so much shouting. It's so annoying. So I gave Marty Supreme a 5 out of 10. Got annoyed with the main character as well, what can I say? And then The Devil Wears Prada 2, I saw that one in the theater with a friend, and we actually enjoyed it. I gave it an 8 out of 10. I do kind of wonder if maybe that score could go down over time. I enjoyed the first movie, and it was kind of surprising that the second movie was compelling enough, talking about some modern stuff like how a company can come under fire on social media, and how do you put out those fires. But Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway returned to their roles so well, in my opinion. I do kind of understand the criticisms I've heard of how, the first movie was poking fun at the fashion industry and the how show-offy all of that is, and in this movie it kind of feels like that's still perpetuating that sort of stuff, not necessarily making fun of it. I can kind of see that, and maybe how it kind of feels like things are kind of corporate and maybe could in a way go against the way the first movie ended. But I don't know, I had a nice visit at the theater seeing this, but I am open to the possibility that my score for this one could go down over time. It's pretty new, and yeah, I guess we'll see. Yeah. And next one on here, sticking with the devil theme, the Daredevil Born Again Season 2 finale. Or I guess you could call it the Daredevil Season 5 finale if you're including those original Netflix seasons, which I don't think anything's gonna top those original 3 seasons for me when it comes to these newer Daredevil episodes. Like, they were good, but didn't quite have me as hyped on that same level. I don't know if it's just I'm older, or it's the absence of a certain character, or if it's that maybe it kind of feels a little different having switched to a different streamer. But it was still interesting to see. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about a certain decision of writing out one of the characters in this season, but the ending I thought was decent, and it leaves me curious where things will go next. And of course, a week after that finale, we got the 45-minute special, The Punisher: One Last Kill. I did not care for this one. I didn't feel that it offered anything new that we needed, and very early on, they do something that feels like it's trying too hard to prove, oh, see, we can do dark stuff even though we're on Disney Plus, you know? I'm just gonna say it's something to do with a dog. And so after that, I just could not enjoy the special. This was a 3 out of 10 for me. Possibly, in my opinion, the worst MCU thing I've watched. I know that might be tough to believe, but that's just how I feel. And it's strange, like, thinking about the John Wick movies and how, you know, the inciting incident for that original John Wick movie, and it can feel, you know, it can make people want to root for going after those people who did that terrible thing in that movie, and that can be a cathartic experience, but it's also not a movie I necessarily ever want to watch again. Now, sticking with that, I did see Ballerina, the John Wick spinoff. I gave that one like a 6 out of 10. I think I'm just kind of over the repetitive action of the John Wick type movies at this point. Which is a bummer, because I was open to enjoying this one now that it wasn't focusing solely on John Wick, but I just wasn't as into it. Now, Maul Shadowlord had some interesting action, especially in the last 2 episodes of this season. It had a confrontation I kind of knew was part of the lore that had been hinted at years ago, and it was satisfying to see it the way that it played out, and I'm curious to see how season 2 plays out. I was very skeptical about this show because to me it felt like, you know, if I want a Maul show, I want it to be set after Solo: A Star Wars Story and before Rebels. But this sold me on why this should be set earlier in the dark times as it was. So if season 2 is still early in the dark times, I'll still be invested in seeing how the relationships develop as we've been seeing them on this show. So that was a nice surprise there. I probably won't be talking about Mandalorian and Grogu next episode. It'll be the episode after, because I'm planning on seeing it on Memorial Day itself and not like opening night or opening day or whatever. But reviews have come out for that. Some seem positive, some kind of mixed. I don't have particularly high expectations. I'm kind of just enjoying a low stakes, somewhat fun time, so hopefully that turns out to be good. We'll see. But getting back to the TV shows, Rooster had its first season finale, and yeah, it's getting a season 2, so I'm pretty excited that we got that announcement. I really enjoyed seeing how Steve Carell carried the show in this new character he's playing, you know, a teacher who's an author, and he's not Michael Scott 2.0. He's a very different character, and it's funny, it's heartfelt, and seeing the stuff that his character's daughter has to navigate through, it's really worth watching if you haven't seen it already. And The Comeback had its season 3 finale, which was also its series finale. This was a very satisfying finale in my book. I was mostly happy. There's one thing I would have changed regarding how things ended up with the AI writing stuff, but maybe they wanted to go a kind of a realistic route, but still have something that would leave viewers happy. So it still comes off saying that, yeah, people are more important than just relying on AI. Like, I think it still conveys that message overall, at least. But yeah, I was quite satisfied with how this show ended, the way that it ended. Now, regular show, The Lost Tapes, that show had its first, well, maybe it's had more than one episode. I've only seen the first episode of this, and this is a show that I loved watching as it aired, and it had the perfect finale. And then a few years later, there was that show Close Enough by the same creator as regular show, and it felt like a nice spiritual successor to regular show, focusing on slightly older characters in their 30s, I think they were. So it felt like the logical next step after regular show. And then a couple years later, the show got canceled. I don't even know if it's still... I think they got taken off of HBO Max, possibly, maybe. So to hear that regular show, The Lost Tapes, was happening, on the surface, it kind of felt like going back to the drawing board, like taking a couple steps back in progress. But setting that aside, the first episode, it's you definitely need to watch the entire original show first. Like you'll have to have finished the original show, have seen the series finale before going into this. But I thought it had a nice way of continuing from what we knew from the finale, and diving back deep in time with these lost tapes, which are between episodes of the original show. And that first story that is a look back, it feels very much like the old regular show. So definitely comfort food so far. It doesn't feel like it's subpar compared to an average regular show episode, but I am hoping that there's still newer stuff to offer in this show, and there very well could be. I'll just have to keep watching and seeing what comes of it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on some recent movies and TV things. I know it's a lot, but hey, it's the 200th episode and 6th anniversary episode, so there you go. So Delayed Replay will be back in a week, with the topic being Avengers Secret Wars. So thanks for tuning in, and without further delay, have a good day.